Peace, peace. We in the building on today. I see you, Dreadful. Peace, peace, peace. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in today. This noon episode of Brian's Yoga Reports. Shout out to the creative guy. Big shout out to the homie Mac Bomb Maccabee for that wonderful presentation the other day over at the House of Consciousness. Head busting at his finest on the Pauline doctrines. Excellent job, Aki. Excellent job. We're going to continue on our journey in the Oahspe. Book of Knowledge, chapter 6. Dope book, very insightful, very eye-opening. I do say so myself. Hey, you're looking at yourself some type of way. Or the world at large. It's going to pull his own up. Verse 1. Therefore to him who would improve his place in heaven while still mortal. Can everybody hear me before we get started? Let me get a one in the chat if everybody can hear me. Peace to the Black Royal family. I see you, dog. Loud and clear. All right, here we go. Therefore, to him who would improve his place in heaven while still mortal, the light of the following truths will be manifest to him who would know. Let him, on the other hand, shut himself up in denial, saying, I defy you to prove the matter, and he shall not be enlightened. Therefore, in the testimony of Jehovah, speaking through S or spirit, and by the spirit of man, quicken is set forth. As a man lives on earth, acquiring perfections or imperfections in spirit, so will he enter the S world at death. You know, there's an old saying, especially in church, you had to be perfect when you cross over. Not so, according to the Oahspe. You ain't gonna be perfect, but you can be better off than when you started. Death is a severing knife that separates the corporal man from the spiritual man. The former returns to the earth, but the latter survives, letting us know that we continue on progression, ascending, and in time rises upward. By death, man suffers the loss of companionship of mortals, but is quickened and united with those he loved before. A new world is open to him, full of light and splendor, fitted to his spirit, even more glorious and real than the corporal world was to his mortal part. Now check this out. I got this video of this one cat, because folks saying that we go to sleep for 1,000 years when we pass. Of course, that's from that particular spiritual system, but that ain't the case. Check this out. Where we at? All right, here we go. What is this one called? Yeah, there we go.
All new at 5, spooky security camera footage.
Yeah, a Metro Atlanta mom says it actually shows her son's ghost. CBS 46's Yasmina Alston spoke with some paranormal investigators to see if it's real or if it's a hoax.
Here in Canton, Georgia, a group of paranormal investigators look into the supernatural. So it was only right that we asked them about what a mom says she saw in her security footage.
It's definitely unexplainable.
A Metro mom says her home security footage captured her son's ghost.
Definitely tell that in the photo there is a human figure.
On Facebook, Jennifer Hodge posted that she was watching TV with her daughter when an alert on her phone said, "Your entryway camera saw someone." Here's what it showed.
No one's around at the time and something gets captured that we can't explain.
Hodge posted that the figure looks just like her son Robbie, who died in 2016. Hodge told media outlets her son died of an accidental drug overdose. Now, we show the pictures to paranormal investigators Heather Thompson and Stephanie Forte with Paranormal Georgia Investigations. They agree with Hodge.
Okay, now I'm understanding what she's talking about, but it was definitely a human figure. I mean, there wasn't anything questionable as to, okay, maybe that's a curtain that's billowing, or maybe that's, an appliance. That's definitely a human figure.
The two are part of a group that investigate homes and businesses of those who think they're dealing with the paranormal. They tell me security footage can be helpful, but to confirm, an actual home visit would be necessary. Hodge posted she is happy to be able to know her son is always with them.
I'm glad that she's happy. I'm very glad that she's comforted and that this brings her joy, because I wish more people would have that type of reaction to paranormal activity.
In Canton, Yasmina Alston, CBS 46 News.
You see that? Yeah, that don't always look. All the wives' tales that we've been believing the whole time we was coming up. Nah, you do have earthbound spirits. That's what makes Oahspe so powerful, because it indulges on this kind of information. Imagine with what we've been taught all our lives. We go to sleep for 1,000 years until the judgment or the rapture. Not so. A new world is open to him. Let me bring this up. Make this back up. There we go. A new world is open to him, full of light and splendor, fitted to his spirit, even more glorious and real than the corporal world was to his mortal part. As a corporal man requires corporal food, clothes, and a habitable place to dwell, so does his spirit require similarly, and is so provided within atmosphere, but spiritually. The first habitable place in spirit is on the earth. Then you know when you cross over, you're going to be on the earth first. There's a time frame that you dwell on the earth. Your spirit is still going to be here until you progress to the next section, till you go off into the second resurrection. The first half of the place is as spirit world on the earth and around near the earth, and mostly within the same house where he dwelt in mortal form. We just seen that. We just seen that with the young man that OD'd. Earthbound spirit. He died in chaos because what he was doing, what he was into. He didn't have no intentions that day of dying over an overdose. But the spirit is subtle and moves not as corporal things move, but having power and presence with friends and kin at remote distances, as if all was in one place, for such is the nature of the spirit world. That's one thing, Credit Gang, boy. We gonna stay on the necks of the false gods and talk about this afterlife. Spirit exists within corporea, and by this means the dead are able to manifest to the living. However, to those living who have no consciousness of their own spirit, the spirits of the dead cannot manifest intelligently. Let me get my foghorn leghorn back up. I said, however, to those living who have no consciousness of their own spirit, the spirits of the dead cannot manifest intelligently. That's one of them scripts that are just, you got to walk around and process that mud. It can't manifest to the living because, there's several factors. Distractions. We're distracted in all kind of ways that you can think imaginable, whatever you got going on in your life. And some folks they don't want to indulge in this anyway because, we got fear. For a mortal to be conscious of his own spirit, it must transcend the corporal senses. He who does not know of his own spirit is weak indeed. Such a man born in the spirit world is like a newborn child, knowing nothing. For a mortal to be conscious of his own spirit, it must transcend his corporal senses. What is that? Spirit, self-realization. In other words, most sacred books teach you this. They might say it in a different form, different way, but at the end of the day, this is what it is. And this is one of the main reasons why Creator was into Capella. Capella was a sage from India. And if you're familiar with the East Indian philosophies, there's at least 6 schools of philosophies. Creator could have picked any other ancient sages to put in this book, but he happened to choose Capella. Rightfully so, because when you dive into the philosophy of Capella, let's see where we at. Let me swap screens right here. Let me pull it on. If it don't let me. Yeah, I'm gonna just show the entire screen here. Right here. This is one of the philosophies of Capella. Sometimes it's pronounced Sankhya, but here it's pronounced Samkhya. And it's dealing with the consciousness. Your 5 senses, your 5 corporeal senses. Sound, touch, form, taste, smell. We're going to get off into Capella, not today, but here in the future. But those are your corporal senses. You must ascend those senses to transcend. Tap in for real, for real. And I get it. Everybody ain't gonna know everything when they transition over, but you can have more knowledge than what you did when you first started this journey. You feel me? All the time, burning the midnight oil, gathering all this spiritual information will actually help you when you transition over. All men born in the spirit life die imperfect, ignorant, and weak, depending on nurses, guardians, and doctors. Many of these dependents are slain in war or in desperate madness and are born into spirit life in chaos. Some will not leave the battlefield. And it's just not talking about war, but in a lot of cases, war. You figure when the Oahspe came out in 1882, World War I and World War II ain't even happened yet. The Iraq War, Operation Desert Storm, Vietnam, the wars that are going on now, they ain't even kicked off yet. Those people that died in all these wars, a lot of them ain't even, they still in chaos. To the long-suffering and to the weary who are upright of heart, death is the doorway to a world of bliss, rest, and love. How you gonna know that unless you didn't put in the time to understand it? To the captain and general who were slayers of men, death is a doorway to where ghastly wounds spring up before men, and frenzied maniacs cry out for vengeance. And the slayers of men run away but cannot escape. They cry out but are mocked at. The wailing of widows and orphans is an increasing horror to them. Their nose is suffocated and their eyes appalled with constant presence of gaping, bloody wounds. The cats that was calling the shots, General Patton, What's that one cat that was in Desert Storm? I forget his name, but all those particular people in high positions calling shots, getting other people's sons, daughters killed. That's on their jacket. They done made children be fatherless and motherless. That's on their jacket. So they from the Oahspe perspective, they're gonna be tormented by that for a time. The leader of men enters the spirit world to meet an army of misled confidants. And his tricks and falsehoods are like soiled and spotted garments to hide a blackened heart. He turns away, but the mirror of his past deeds hang up before him. And that's one thing that all the sacred books agree on. There is a thing called karma. As above, so below. On heaven as it is on earth. The rich man, this is one thing too about the Oahspe. You know, most sacred books got their stories. Some stories be hidden hard, especially in the Oahspe because it speaks in modern times. Well, it speaks in ancient and modern times, but it hits hard because it's in a modern, this section of the passage of scriptures speak in a modern language, so you can relate to it a little more than, let's say, something 5,000 years ago. The rich man enters the S world at the door of his bank. In the bank, he lingers all day. At night, he wanders up and down. He meets another rich man. They shake hands, but do not speak. Then he goes forth. In the morning, he is in the door of his bank again. And all day he loiters about. He worries at the manner of the clerks. He fears his widow will come to want or that his bank will soon run low. He sees the glory of the spirit world, but he cannot enter it. And this is an example of why all these sacred books talk about being detached from earthly things. Yeah, stay alive. Being detached from these earthly things will keep you bound. Keep you bound to on the first resurrection. Keep you here. And this brother here, I'm about to pull up. I don't know if he has ever read the Oahspe, but this brother be hitting on some things that agree with the Oahspe. And it's through a method called hypnotherapy. Let's see, where that. Yeah, let's see. Check this brother out. Check this brother out. And tell me earthbound spirits ain't real.
As we all continue to navigate the tough terrain that is our reality today on planet Earth, few people realize that much of the source of their own anxiety, emotional trauma, and challenge may be due to a phenomenon that is non-physical, though connected to our planet. The idea of what is known as spirit attachment, though not readily discussed in conventional circles, is said by some to be a very real and complex challenge that humans face every day. Except for one thing, most people don't know the problem even exists. Alternative researcher and spiritual medium Barry Littleton says the idea of some souls of the deceased hovering close to the earthly plane and wreaking havoc on humanity is a real problem for many unsuspecting individuals. But just how common is the idea of the earthbound dead attaching to that of living humans?
The phenomenon of earthbound souls is extremely common here on Earth. I would say that actually the earthbound spirit population rivals that of the living. So it's a real problem here, and there are layers. So that's one layer that needs to be addressed concerning people crossing over and the death process. This phenomenon is very much, it's very common, but not very well known or discussed, based on, I think, a lot of the fears that come connected to personal fears and also religion fears and the thought of ghosts. No one wants to believe in ghosts or haunted houses, things of that nature. So I think that's a way of ridiculing people and ridiculing their sanity, but it's also a way of dismissing this phenomenon and allowing it to become much more prevalent here on Earth and much more of a problem for people that are enduring hostile earthbound spirits, whether they be inside the energy field or outside the energy field. My experience with this phenomenon starts with being able to actually, a medium, actually being able to perceive earthbound spirits or ghosts, as many people can. A lot of people turn it off, but it's something that definitely started me on that path. The next would be seeing them attached to people or encountering them stepping forward to me in some circumstances that was had to be dealt with. You can't just ignore that all the time and try to turn it off. I think a lot of us want to turn this off and try to act like it doesn't exist, when in fact it does, until one of our loved ones transfer or crosses over, or something of that nature. So that's the first way that I came to it. I also started studying hypnosis, and actually what hypnosis and the subconscious brings up as far as things that are integrated in our personality, with our personality. That's another thing that happened. And I didn't started studying hypnosis for that. I'd studied it for missing time concerning some other encounters I had that weren't with deceased people. So that's kind of what got me into this. And some of these things are connected together and not the separate classifications that we want them to be. Whether it be earthbound spirits, ghosts, demonic, UFOs, extraterrestrials. Some of these things are all on the left side of awareness, on that side where dreams are, where death is. Everything's on that left side of awareness. So it's important, I think, right now, at where we're at in humanity and in Earth's time, is to bring this to the light. People start knowing more about this, and more people doing the work, helping people cross over. I think it's very important for the average person to be aware of this, based on the traumas that we store in our body, based on how some of these traumas can be connected to earthbound spirits, how they can actually influence our lives, and in a detrimental way a lot of times. Because sometimes these things will affect our personality, our traits, and the traumas that we're holding within our body. We don't release those. It's important to do these things so that we don't actually attach earthbound spirits, join with earthbound spirits, and also learning about the death process itself when our loved ones go through it. What should we do when they're passing? How can we help that be a smooth transition, opposed to keeping them here and holding them here? That's another important thing. And another thing is, where do these type of encounters with earthbound spirits most happen? And how is it easiest to get attacked by one? This is a very important, because it's a very common, and these are things that can cause mental illness, trauma in the body, trauma in the life, various negative influences in our life. So that is, it's imperative to know these things. My method of protection against earthbound spirits is different in some ways than what we hear traditionally in New Age and other philosophies. As far as and all respect to that, there are many different ways to deal with these things. But my personal method entails using the cognitive behavioral approach, the same as cognitive behavioral therapy, which I did with youth and adults for many years in my professional life, and it's no different in some ways when dealing with earthbound spirits. The same principles still apply. What I want people to take away from this workshop is the ability to detect earthbound spirits, to know how they join with us, to know how they influence our life, and also how to protect yourself from them, how to protect your kids from them. The more we know about it, the more it circulates our population, our collective, the more it will raise the consciousness. We hear a lot of talk about that right now, ascending and raising of consciousness. So this occurs in several different ways. And this is something I want people to be able to take from this workshop, which is how to protect themselves and just how to be aware of how these things happen and how they influence our lives and how to see it in our loved ones or people in our life also, and maybe possibly be able to help.
All right, there we go. Familiar spirits mostly come from the rate of 21 and from the rate 7 who were slain in war and thrown into chaos. That is, spirits who do not know who they are nor where they are. And being in darkness, ignorance, they anchor themselves onto mortals. Spirit obsession. It's a real thing out here. It's a real thing out there. And then you got folks that talking about, oh, that's pseudo. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. But yeah, it's definitely a real thing out here. Oahspe be dropping bombs on all this. Where we leave off. Shit. In the morning, he is in his door of the bank again. I read that already. Let's see. Yes, he is abashed by the whiteness of the raiment and the light of their souls, and so he turns and hides in his bank again. But lo, the spirit of him who is dead sucks out the spirit of the wine and leaves him distracted still. Another darker chamber opens. A dealer in wines. A dealer in wines is dead. Your friendly neighborhood liquor store. One with a fashionable home and wife and daughters. High, aspiring as to the corporal values in society. I mean, living good. Living good. Confronted in his stores with the spirits of those who died from his temptations. I know that ain't gonna rub a lot of people the right way, but confronted in his stores with the spirits of those who died from his temptations. So this guy on his jacket is being entertained by the things that he is selling. He didn't turn folks into alcoholics and ruining their lives. Bleary-eyed and boisterous, they come to welcome the newly dead, and with atmospherian potions sucked out of his plenteous barrels. Greet him with rich applause. These spirits is like, welcome to the party, niggas. Yeah, I got your number. Then he flies to his wife and daughters in his mansion, richly furnished. Below, the drunken sots, foul-smelling spirits fill his habitation. With terrible anger, helpless, he watches the spirits of pollution fondling his daughter's person and his widow, a fountain for their revelry. And anybody that's a parent that if you put in a situation where you can't help your children, the instinct as a parent, you already know how you feel on the inside. So imagine being on the other side, watching spirits get at your children, the ones that are alive, and you can't do nothing. That's wild, ain't it? You can't do nothing. You know how many people probably go through that? Spirits by the thousands probably go through that. Every other minute. If not every other second. Then he, let's see. And yet the depth is not full. In a stately mansion, a woman of high caste, high society, a celebrity. Your Taylor Swifts and your Beyoncés and, whoever you're aware of celebrity-wise. And it was said she was blessed because in not having born children, ease and glory were at her command. You know you heard somebody say that before. Girl, boy, you got it good. Boy, you ain't got no kids. And now with curious mirth and some envy, the spirits of other women who were social outcasts come to observe the newborn spirit of the leader of fashion. So we talking about fashion here. You know how many dead fashion designers that transitioned and probably was like, yo, man, I wish I would have just did it another way. Gianni Versace's, and man, there's a plethora of fashion designers out there that, man, died a horrible way too. And now with curious mirth and some envy, the spirits of other women who were social outcasts come to observe the newborn spirit of the leader of fashion. As they turn to look, nurses come with children born from her body and her spirit by abortion cast into heaven, even in Jaja's face accursed. A curtain of black death that will not go away chokes her. And no matter where she turns, to the left, the right, up, or down, there is nothing but the wail of sweet babes being haunted by what she done did. Mother, why did you murder me? Dang. Was I not Jaja's gift? The woman of fashion hides, but is not hidden. Even the soiled outcasts are white beside her. Like a woman that is crushed but cannot die. She squirms and reefs in the kingdom she built with her own hands. Meaning what? She created this world by the things she did on earth. That goes for everybody. On earth as it is in heaven. But check this out. This is a sister named Oahspe. She's also a hypnotherapist. Now, this wasn't about abortion, but it was about not a stillborn, but a miscarriage. Check this out. She had a hypnotherapy session with spirit attachment. And you ain't got to believe it, but the folks that know, they know.
Leave me alone, making me really angry.
Are you attached to somebody's body?
Yes,
Where are you attached to her?
her heart.
Why didn't you go to the light?
I'm scared. She was my mom.
Were you ever
I got
born?
mom. No,
You weren't born. Did you give yourself a name?
Anthony.
Was it a mistake that you weren't born?
Yes,
Maybe your mom miscarried you?
yes.
If it was a mistake, there's no reason for you to be angry. Sure, your mom loves you. Go ahead, you can speak. I'm listening to you.
I love you. I will always love you. And I carry you always in my heart.
Anthony, you hear your mom?
Yes,
Are you ready to go?
I'm scared.
Would you like your mom to hold your hand while you go to the light?
Yes,
Is there anything you'd like to say to your mommy before you leave?
yes.
Go ahead, she's listening.
I see Skylar, and she's happy and playing. I love you. Leave me alone, making me really angry.
Are you attached to somebody's body?
Yes,
Where are you attached to her?
her heart.
Why didn't you go to the light?
I'm scared. She was my mom.
Were you ever
I got
born?
mom. No,
You weren't born. Did you give yourself a name?
Anthony.
Was it a mistake that you weren't born?
Yes,
Maybe your mom miscarried you?
yes.
If it was a mistake, there's no reason for you to be angry. Sure, your mom loves you. Go ahead, you can speak. I'm listening to you.
I love you. I will always love you. And I carry you always in my heart.
Anthony, you hear your mom?
Yes,
Are you ready to go?
I'm scared.
Would you like your mom to hold your hand while you go to the light?
Yes,
Is there anything you'd like to say to your mommy before you leave?
yes.
Go ahead, she's listening.
I see Skylar, and she's happy and playing. I love you. Leave me alone, making me really angry.
Are you attached to somebody's body?
Yes,
Where are you attached to her?
her heart.
Why didn't you go to the light?
I'm scared. She was my mom.
Do you come from the light, Clove? What's your definition of God, Clove?
Asshole.
Are you attached to any part of his body?
You think I'm talking to you? You're asking me these questions. Why would I answer?
Right. I think you're afraid. What are you afraid of?
I saw what you did to Lily. I'm not doing that.
What did I do to Lily?
Happened to Lily. She gone.
Lily went to the light because she wanted to go to the light.
Well, I don't see no damn light. All I see is dark. Fuck them. Like, when you got a good thing going, why would you, like, stop a good thing?
Did you have a body at one time, Clove?
Yeah.
Or are you male or female?
I'm a man.
How old were you when you lost your body?
In my 30s.
How'd you die?
A nigga. It was a card game. I don't know. Niggas salty. They lose.
What did he do?
I see a knife, so I'm guessing I got stabbed. We ain't got to relive that, though.
Do you come from the light, Clove? What's your definition of God, Clove?
Asshole.
Are you attached to any part of
It's our job to investigate. You feel me? Create a gang investigation. Where we go? We started left off right here. From the scene of horrors, ooze now open the door. Ooze is an age, or let me give you the definition. Is an equivalent to a vanishment of things seen into things unseen, but could also be equivalent to worldliness or a world's people. Now open the door of the materialistic man of corporal learning. His spirit wanders in libraries, in ancient tombs and hieroglyphs, or sighs over problems never solved. His mind is indulged in this. He ain't seeing nothing else. His total thing is on this. Day by day, night by night, he restlessly peers into the same paths. Over and over, burrows deep in darkness. Stripling youths and fairies pull his wig or upturn his spectacles, saying, "Oh, fool, do you not know that you are dead?" Turn from these corporal tombs and behold great Jehovah's light. He's like, you heard the sister with that one spirit attachment. Certain spirits, they don't want to go to the light. Some certain spirits are afraid to go to the light. Some spirits aren't educated to know what the light is because they never put the time in while they was living. Turn from these corporal tombs. I read that already. Let's see. Why am I dead? There is no end. I am merely sick, still dwelling in my corporal body, and then he wanders on a living sepulcher, a living tomb. Super denial. He can't accept the fact that you dead. A farmer is dead. It was his wont to rise early and toil all day, to ponder much on the fruit of his labor, and to glory in his freedom. For himself and his family he lived. To himself and his family Jah gives it. In his house and his fields, his spirit walks about. He knows no heaven or hell. As a weed that is worthless to itself in the world, so is his spirit, as the weed does not know the field that brought it forth. Neither does he know Jah's heaven, nor can he go anywhere except from field to field. He's stuck, earthbound. Same thing the brother Barry Livingston was talking about. He's stuck. And Jah gave him that which he desired. And that's one of the lessons out of these stories also. You got to be careful what you ask for. Jah gave him which he desired. What spirit is this that gluts itself in the slaughterhouse? He was a gourmandizer. He is dead. He goes from restaurant to restaurant, snuffing the air of roasted viands and fat meats. I forgot what this. I forgot. Let's look that up right quick. What is a fancy word at a time? Fancy food, basically. Snuffing the air of roasted fancy food and fat meats and of wines. Eating good. The smell of the fat man is his delight. And the woman who rejoices in sin, rare flesh, and fat soups is like a cushion for him to roll upon. Marinate on that for a minute. The smell of the fat man is his delight, and the woman who rejoices in sin, rare flesh, and fat soups is like a cushion for him to roll upon. One says, I never came into the restaurant without, once I am here, remembering him who is dead. You know, y'all be at the cookout. You know what I'm saying? A little family reunion, you know, y'all smashing barbecue, you know, fat back, baby back, etc. I remember old Junebug. Man, boy, look, man, when Junebug was here, man, boy, he was the life of the party. So and so and so and so. I never come into this restaurant without once I am remembering him who is dead, who so loved this place. And the others say, I believe his spirit still, Lord, is here. And that is why we so often think of him. That's heavy. Yeah, that's heavy. And at that, they gorge themselves, even while the spirit of the dead feeds on the atmospherian part. This is all the heaven he sought on earth, and Jah gave it to him. Just like that. And Jah gave it to him. Just like the farmer up here. Jah gave it to him. That's what he wanted. That's what she wanted. Jah gave it to him. Like attracts like. That's what it said in chapter 5. And now comes confusion in heaven. He who forever argued is dead. We all know somebody that's always arguing with somebody. Don't never get along with nobody. Scarcely newborn in the spirit life, he sets up to prove his position and enlighten the whole world. So he went over to the spirit world trying to argue with them spirits. The curious and the idler gather around to hear his speech again. He strives to show the whole world is a fool. He turns his argument in endless ways and repeats them over. Day by day, night by night. This is what he strove to build on earth. And Jah gave him the same. Yes, Imam, arguing with the spirit. Just don't get along with nobody. Took that same mentality, that same consciousness over to the spirit world, arguing with new spirits that didn't even been there already for a while. And it don't amount to nothing. This is what he strove to build on earth, and Jah gave him the same. And here, newborn in spirit is the moderate man, who by industry earned a handsome house and raised up his sons and daughters, credible to the state. He is in his home still. Heaven is too narrow for him. Must be a high-minded cat. Oh, I got degrees, got a PhD, blah, 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 blah. He says, I would argue with Jah that I do not have my due share of heaven. Did I not give alms daily? I broke them off some. I threw a few pennies in the cup on my way to the subway. The poor man a crust, a poor woman a penny. When did I pass a blind man and not give? But no one answered him. The chord of his voice being as narrow as his orientation felt barren, as if talking to the wind. Again and again he repeats his complaint, but no one takes him by the hand, and he remains helplessly in his own home. Just like you seen the young man earlier that was in the kitchen in his own home. Most spirits go back to where they was dwelling at. And he remains helplessly in his own home, which he asked Jah to help him build for his heirs. He asked Jah for the home, and he went back to the home. It's the fourth time that the person that asked for something initially, you see, that's what Jah gave him, letting you know, be careful what you ask for, because it may keep you in bondage. depending on what it is, depending on how you feel about it. The recluse with a new philosophy, scheme of diet, but aimless and producing little to benefit anything under the sun is dead. He got a new diet, new philosophy, but it ain't going nowhere. The breath of mortals was poison to him, and all human influence to be avoided as poison infected his most holy spirit. Yeah, some of us been here. His most holy spirit. Here again, nymphs and fairies gather to his spirit, makes its Etherean flight. As mortals gather around a pretender who promises to sail around the world. So these jackals and mischief-loving spirits gather in the house of the recluse to see his promised ascent. And that's one thing about Oahspe too. It'll have you doing some research on some things that you might have known, some things you might have been rusty on that you got to go look up again, or things you just never known from the jump. And be like, oh, or things that just never dawned on you to look up. Especially like with this promises to sail a balloon around the world. Think about it. At that time in the 1800s, they had out there balloons, but at the time, ain't nobody fly around the world with it yet. I believe the first recorded travel of a hot air balloon across the world, I think it was in 1999, if I'm not mistaken, by like a Swedish dude or something like that. And then there was an American guy that eventually did it too, but he ended up dying. It was like 2 or 3 years before they found his body, and when they identified him, they had to identify him by the bones. So when I seen this right here, as a mortal gathers around the pretender who promises to sail a balloon around the world, this ain't even happened yet at the time. He will show them how the higher spheres in heaven are reached. Yet he will not deign even immortal life to commune with the spirits of the dead. None so low for him. But now he is dead, and his spirit limps and trembles in his hovel or his house, his abode, still boasting. And you know, a lot of spirits, they go back to the place where they died. And as he produced nothing in corporal world, so he produces nothing still. So whomever this fits, you didn't do nothing in your corporal life, you transition to the spiritual life and you still ain't doing nothing. That's a bad way to be. But boasts and secludes and boasts, and this is his heaven day and night. You know what that reminds me of? I don't know if y'all seen that movie, Soul. Remember how them spirits were down there and they was just like in their own world, just like zombies. That's what this reminds me of. Battle of the Beasts at the time of Cosmine. The light of Jah touched on the earth, and the heavens above stirred to the foundation. Things past were moved forward. His voice was from the depth of darkness to the summit of all light. The nations that had not known him now knew him, acceptable, and with loud rejoicings they shouted, Jah, Almighty and everlasting, glory be to you on high, Creator, Father, all praise to you forever. And Jah went swiftly far and near, quickening with a new power, both the living and the dead. And the peoples rose up, and from every corner heard his voice calling, come forth, O my beloved. And it was not like any sound under the sun, for it reached deep into the souls of men. And in the stirring up of the things long past, it was as if a cloud of dust and darkness, foul and poisonous, overspreading heaven and earth, was to be cleared away to make room for the immortal kingdom. High above the clouds and deep down in all the blackness, the all light of the great Jehovah shone as the everlasting sun. The faith of men and angels rose up in increasing assurance to the Most High, and that he alone is matchless majesty, will rise triumphant over all. Jah said, bring forth the legions of the earth and heaven, summon up the dead, let the living rejoice. My kingdom is at hand, and the dead came forth as if out of their graves, but clothed in the raiment of heaven, and they walked upon the earth and talked with the living face to face, proclaiming the fullness of Jah and his everlasting kingdoms. Though the infants who were long dead, and now full grown in heaven, singing in Jah's praise, return to living. Mothers return from the unseen world with love and angel kisses for their mortal babes and sorrow-stricken husbands. Then the cloud of darkness rose higher and higher. The poisonous smell and damnable tricks of Hades belched forth in terrible blackness. The spirits of those slain in war, delirious, mad, and died in vengeance. And those whose earth lives had bound them in torments, and those who lived on earth to glut themselves in the full aberrant lust came assuming the names of gods and saviors, The more educated you get on these things, you'll be able to determine what these things are. Because like the scripts say, there's certain things that are going to be presented to you, protruding as if they were the very thing. But how you going to know if you're not educated on it? How you going to know if you ain't got the experience to deal with this kind of stuff? Yeah, it's real easy to say now, yeah, I'm gonna, but until it happens, and now the cloud reached all around the earth, and the light of Jah was almost obscured. Still the faith of angels and mortals rose up in an increasing voice. Jah is mighty. I know he will prevail. And still the black giant arose awful in gloom and blood-stained mantle till all around the earth it became like a solemn night before a battle of death, rattling bones and empty skulls with gnashing teeth, all stained with human gore, made hideous by portentous omen, cause angels and men to stand appalled. Sound like something out of Revelation, don't it? Jah said, bring forth the legions of earth and heaven, summon up the dead, let the living rejoice, my kingdom is at hand. And now as the cloud of darkness stretch up out the earth, girding it all as a venomous reptile secures its living food, lo, and behold, the monster beast stretched forth 4 heads with flaming nostrils all on fire. And that's another thing too. The cats that be talking about, well, you know, they got that out the Bible. There's always something similar in all these books. Always. And you can be on the other side of the planet They got their particular book. But there's always something that's gonna coincide, as we will call Tay in this book. There's always something that's going to coincide, that's going to agree, because it's humans. They're mortals. Spiritually, that's the way it is. But we're gonna stop off right there today. Hope y'all learned something today. Hope something got reinforced today, spiritually. Hope you take something with you. But yeah, these spirits is real out here, real in the field. Real in the field. But until next time, tune on into the Brownsville Report.